Oh, it's rusty. Hold on. Okay. Welcome to #SetLife.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Joseph, for that harmonious opening. We love it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to #SetLife, where we sit back and chit-chat about working on set. And I am your host, Bradford Clark, and that was our other host, Joseph Quick. And today we have with us a special guest, Cody McAvey.
That's
right.
That? You did say it right.
Yeah. It's not even a hard name. I don't know why I question it so much.
Well, because it's not McAvey.
Exactly.
It's not Scottish.
It looks like McAvey. Everyone says McAvey.
Yeah, it's not Scottish.
But it's actually McAvey.
Cody is a director of photography. He is currently working on a movie we're shooting here in Michigan, The Evil 1%. Welcome to the show, Cody.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So to open us up, and I'd like to learn a little bit about you. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your love for movies and what really got you towards wanting to do, and not maybe just movies, but moving pictures and being involved in the creation.
Yeah, absolutely. So my love for movies stems from birth, I'd say. I've always wanted to make movies ever since I was a little kid. My parents would take me to the movies every week, so kind of started with that. And then getting back to the movie we talked about on the other show, when I saw Reservoir Dogs, it kind of, it made it, I guess it was a revelation seeing that movie, because it made me realize that, oh, I can do this too. Like, that was the first movie I saw that was an independent movie. It was a low budget movie, but it was also a movie that entertained me and I loved, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen before.
Right. Yeah, it was attainable.
Yeah, exactly. And I was used to going to I was used to going to movie theater movies, like all the new stuff that came out big. Yeah, which, Dinosaurs. That seems a little farther away.
Yeah.
And then you see a movie like that and you're like, oh, like a guy can make a movie in one location for not a lot of money and it's still awesome and people love it. So
yeah,
that kind of got me going, like, I want to do that. And
we were out to eat actually just earlier today, and you mentioned that you had written a script at 13.
Yes, sir.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to talk about
we can.
Oh yeah.
So
what motivated you? Were you that young when you saw Reservoir Dogs?
I was 10 when I saw Reservoir.
Oh my God! Okay.
My parents have never been
my first exposure to Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Which is, how old were you when you saw Evil Dead 2?
I was about 10 years old.
That's insane.
Yeah, right?
Okay. I mean, I feel like that's even more insane than Reservoir Dogs. But
I think, well, Reservoir Dogs is so, and we didn't touch on this when you recommended it, but it's remembered as such a vile, gory.
It is, but
it's not.
It's not.
It's implied, and that I think is it's a testament to it.
Always talks about the ear cutting scene. You don't even see it.
You don't see it.
He cuts away. The camera moves away. He always says this. He's always like, "Why is it so controversial?"
That it disturbs you just as much.
It
as
is disturbing.
The ear get
it is fucked up. Because you feel so bad for the guy.
Oh, yeah.
It's terrible. Marvin Nash. He's such a good guy.
Marvin Nash.
Cut my fucking ear off.
So, obviously, too, so yeah, I saw that at 10. My parents have never been restrictive about movies, no matter from what age. So I've been exposed to a crazy amount of movies and a crazy amount of crazy movies from when I was young. And they just always kind of reiterated to me, it's a movie. We don't care what you watch. And that's what got my love of movies. I was seeing some great movies when I was
demonstrating the art of it and
the process of it.
That's how I am, because watch obviously a lot of stuff, and definitely the weirder the better for me.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean, just trying I want to see all that's out there.
Yeah.
Right. And having a young child, like I don't hold that from her. Like, say, I know Brad's parents did. My parents did a bit, but nowhere near. So not as free as you. Like there were certain things at certain ages that I wasn't allowed to watch.
Well, my mom didn't love like sex scenes sometimes. You
Right,
know.
the nudity.
When we were
Sure.
in an R-rated movie and there was a pretty intense sex scene, I would get the hand over my eyes. But
Right.
violence, they never really cared about. Like it was.
But
always,
as a parent,
yeah.
I let her, and if she gets scared, honey, it's all make believe.
Right.
This is what Daddy does for a living.
Exactly.
It's all storytelling.
It
It's
is.
not real.
It's all
right?
fake. It's all pretend.
And she, you know, sometimes she's still scared because when it's really done really well, shit scares me too. Still, right? So
Yeah.
I get it, and I will do the hands over the eyes like you're saying, but at her demand, like she has my hand and she uses it.
Yeah.
It's come to that now, you know. So, but like there was a point when she was 2 years old laughing at head explosions. You know what I mean? Like she's
So I was
That's
recent-
okay.
definitely
I was
my kid.
recently
Yeah,
thinking
exactly.
about that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was listening to another one of the podcasts that I like to listen to about movies, and they were discussing something. I don't remember what it was, but all of them were talking about how they had seen it in their youth, and they were about my age. So it would have been an opportunity for me to see those movies as well. And they talked about how like they would be at a friend's house or an older brother, and like they were sneaking it and this and that, but none of them are damaged. And the thought that I had started going through my head is like, is there a benefit to seeing things like that earlier than how we
there
believe
is.
we should be hiding? And I think that there is, because the way that they talk about it is formative. Like there are some movies, like for example, Goonies is a movie I'll
love
use.
that movie
I don't. And here's the reason.
because you didn't.
I saw it when I was 22 years old.
Children.
I was 22 years old. You know?
Yeah, it's probably goofy as an
I was-
adult.
I
I would
was
think
like
it's
8,
corny.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, you know, and
I was
I use that
that
as an
kid.
example
Yeah.
because it's something I think we can all
was Mikey.
relate to. But, you know, it.
I just didn't have an older brother.
Right. Right. I
did.
think there are movies like seeing a horror movie for the first time. Like I love horror
Probably more
movies.
like David,
horror
honestly.
movies
I
are
was
some of my
always inventing
favorites.
weird shit.
But I can't say that horror movies really affect me in a frightening way. Like I'm more just fascinated with how they got the frightening off. So having not seen these things earlier before the magic was lost, I've lost out on being
yeah, a lot.
terrified
Yeah, you
from
have.
some of these things. Now I'm more like, oh, that was cool. Did he just cut his whole freaking neck open? That's awesome.
How'd they do that
Right.
instead of
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So
first initial
what
80s scare?
what
as
are
a
movies
80s
that
baby.
what are the types of movies that you like that you lean towards? I don't think I've ever asked any of our guests like this question before, but what do you like when it comes to movies? Is there-
I'd say mainly like crime thrillers are my favorite genre of movie, especially ones from the 70s. That's my heaviest influence, like the William Friedkins, the Sidney Lumet's, French Connection, Dog Day Afternoon.
Nice.
I almost brought up Dog Day. I don't know why I didn't put it on my my
That's a great
it-
point.
I had it on my mind, and as you saw, my list was so freaking long that I just forgot to add one more.
No one added that movie.
No.
That's one of the best.
And I did a Lumet with 12 Angry Men, so I at least did that. But
That's
yeah,
enough.
It's
Push your story, y'all.
the
You
movie-
you can do it in one building.
the movies of the 70s, again, because of my age, I didn't come across a lot of it, but that's another avenue that I've been re-exploring and putting effort into. And I just recently saw Marathon Man with Dustin
Marathon
Hoffman.
Man's great.
Phenomenal movie.
Great.
That I
That
don't
was
know.
a recent watch for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta
That's,
rewatch that.
Parallax. I've watched Parallax
is
View.
great.
Yep, that's a weird one. I need to watch.
Midnight Cowboy is.
I've not
pretty
seen
good.
Midnight Cowboy. I need to see that. I need to
Cowboy's
see
great.
Clute. I need to
Clute's
see
great.
All the President's Men. Like, I'm checking off boxes.
Yeah,
I've seen The Conversation, but it's been many years. So
That's a good one. Sorcerer. Have you ever seen Sorcerer?
I've not seen Sorcerer.
I
So
have
would
not
you?
seen
That's a
that.
crime
What is
thriller.
this?
It doesn't sound like a
It's
crime
not.
thriller.
I wouldn't say crime. It is. It's a William Friedkin movie. I want to say it's the late
Okay.
'70s.
Yes.
It's one of the masterpieces of all masterpieces.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've heard that title mentioned before.
I only saw it about
Source.
2 years ago, I want to say.
Okay.
And it changed my whole perspective of movie making. Like,
Interesting.
Like, it blew me away. It is such a well done movie. And no one knows it because it did horribly when it came out because of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Again, going back to what we were talking about.
All
before.
these,
Yeah.
It is, yeah. Like,
You gotta look at who your release neighbors are.
yeah.
And if you're new to the show, go back. We've done an episode on blockbuster flops, right?
Yeah.
Like things that
Yeah.
make money.
That should have made money.
There are
Yeah.
so many movies that, just like you said, The Thing earlier,
Right.
and like anything that went up against Star Wars in the 70s.
And
or
they're
any of
probably better than the
Yeah,
ones that did
probably.
really well.
It's marketing,
Yeah,
man.
It is.
I was saying to someone the other day, they were talking
Who had
about
the corporate money.
the Blair Witch Project, and I worked in a theater when Blair Witch Project came out, so I remember what was happening then. And I like Blair Witch Project. First off, it's a great movie, but it was a movie built on marketing. But the conversation we were having was about numbers. So we're always hearing, like, recently Furiosa has been in the news for not doing well.
Right.
And like not doing well was $40 million. And that's not well because it's not making back what it needed. And they put this expectation of Memorial Day releases making hundreds of millions as opposed to $500,000.
Right.
So half a hundred. So that was
streaming world, now,
right,
baby.
But this is what those numbers don't say. The numbers so when at the time Blair Witch Project was a movie that a lot of people were seeing, and you could advertise that a lot of people were seeing, and it was making money, but that money is now spent. That now stops the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
But in reality, there were so many people disappointed, because it wasn't real, because of this, because of that. But that's not what you talk about because it sold. The ticket
Right.
sales are done. Whereas with The Thing, the ticket sales and the conversation again ends there, especially for the studio. They're like,
Right.
oh, it
And
didn't
let's-
make any money.
let's talk
but
about
it
that,
continued to make money and continued to be today. Till
they-
today, people are still
Well, they didn't know, too,
Because they
that-
started
yeah.
with a limited release at art theaters, but it was nationwide. But it was like, I want to say 12 to 16 theaters. Initial release, Blair Witch.
movie? Okay.
Oh.
And it did so well that
Well, that was one of those movies they
that the
advertised people were
distributors
puking.
said, okay, we're going to put you in a larger, but we're going to keep it in the art theaters and see, because maybe it's not for everybody. But
Right.
it kept doing well. It kept doing well. So this is one of those things where they had multiple rounds in the theater, which is very, very fucking rare.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore.
No, not at
often.
all, because if it was actual
You have to release.
film era,
You have to be.
That's true.
Yeah, you have to release a blockbuster banger that's going to be an Oscar, and you have to release it
right. So like,
in the summer so they can release it again in January.
yeah.
Yep.
So there's so many ways that the Blair Witch was a phenomenon of its
Yeah.
own accord because
Right.
of
But
the
I just
originality
mean-
of the artist.
Well, they also marketed it like
was
it
a
was
website
real.
story.
Yeah, there's a website.
I
you can
thought
go
that
to.
was real when that movie
Yes.
came out,
Yeah.
which was awesome.
Everybody
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
There was a whole website
nuts.
you could go to. There were hidden
And then
extra
there
clips
was
and
one of two
Right.
groups. You were either pissed that it wasn't, or like that
Right.
was some cool fucking art.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that was obviously the cool fucking.
And the
that's
actors
cool
had
fucking
their
art.
their names. The actors' names were their
they used
characters'
their real names.
They
and
used
they
their
were
real names.
contracted
Like
to hide.
right.
Yeah, much like Cannibal Holocaust.
It was genius. It was genius. But
It was, yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't mean to throw. That was a great conversation. I didn't mean to tangent us.
No, not
too
at all.
much,
No, that's
but, so what? You're young. You got into movies from watching them a whole lot. Was there does young Cody have a goal? Is it like the rest of us? You just want to be a director? Like, was it? Did you? What was the? Take us through the journey of how you got to DP.
Yeah, sure. So, I wanted to make movies, and I would talk to my parents, and I'd be like, what is the name of someone who makes movies? I had no idea.
Right.
So they had no idea too. So they'd be like, oh, I think that's a producer. So for years I was, as a kid, telling people, I really want to be a producer. But that's never what I wanted to be. I always wanted to come up with story. I wanted to write, and then I wanted to make what I was writing. So
Right.
I've always wanted to be a writer-director. My thing now, I love crime thrillers, but when I was a kid, it was strictly horror movies. I was hugely into slashers. When I was really young, I loved Universal monster movies. That's what I grew up on. And so when it came down to me being like, okay, I want to finally start making stuff with my friends, we just would make horror movies. Like, that's the best thing to make when you don't have a lot of money, when you don't, when you want to make something fun and you want to, not come up with something super complex. Like, you want to go out and make a horror movie. So I was obsessed with the Friday the 13th movies. So me and my friends, we would go out, I'd dress one of my friends up as Jason, and we'd make dope Friday the 13th versions. And it was really fun. We'd get fake blood. We'd do that whole thing. And so that kind of just from there, they got better and better. I was teaching myself how to filmmake, really. My parents bought me a really cheap camcorder, and I would just go out and shoot. And I was learning how to edit in camera.
Yeah, you got to use the camera. Did you connect it to
I didn't
the
know
TV?
how to edit. No. We were literally like...
Oh, you were shooting the edit.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
yes.
got you.
Yes. I would literally like...
No, I follow.
Just so we could watch the movie immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
I was learning how to edit by editing in camera. We would shoot, and then boom, next shot. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is it's a good way to learn, in a way. But then when I got older and I discovered, there's editing softwares and things like that, we can do this more than once kind of thing. That's when it started getting a little bit more professional.
When you start wasting film, wasting money.
Were you
true,
shooting on VHS? Was your camcorder VHS or was it a mini DV?
No, it was mini DV.
Mini DV.
Yep, it was mini DV, which sucked.
I've shot on mini DV. Joe shot
terrible
on mini
with
DV.
the tapes and shit.
But I learned on like Back to the Future style, red brick, full VHS.
Yeah.
I've done high.
Okay.
Done.
But then you could have edited in the VCR, right? Like in a like.
I mean, but
So is that how that
I
works?
was 7.
So it's
Right.
it would be reel to reel, right? So
You weren't thinking about that. Yeah, right. That's what they were.
Like a fucking shoulder mounted news camera.
yeah, an ENG. So the way that would work is you take the camera, you would connect the composite cables to your VCR.
Got it.
You put a clean tape in the VCR, and then you tape to tape, right? So you go to your edit, play it from the VCR, play it from the camera,
Sure.
record it onto the VHS, and then find your other one, and you just do that back and forth.
So it'd be like doing a playback, finding the proper endpoint, and then it is still editing in real time, but you'd be able to like. We went a little too far.
it's linear editing.
Yes,
It is. It's still linear. Yeah, right.
It's destructive linear editing.
Okay.
In order,
still tape,
if you
right?
fuck
Yeah,
up, you
but
got
that's-
to clear the tape, start over, or find your in spot.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good way to learn.
Yeah.
It really is.
So I'm glad you said what you just said about the camera and shooting with your friends and so forth, because we've never really kind of had that conversation. And I think the younger generation now has a more access opportunity to be able to do that. So
Absolutely.
Would you ever discourage anyone from just taking a phone or a tablet and learning to shoot and learning to edit with the fucking free editing software that you can get? Like, what's
You don't
stopping
even need
anybody?
software, dude.
Absolutely.
Your phone comes with
That's
everything.
so
you need
true. It could all
to
be in
just
your
make
phone
a
now.
movie.
Yeah. And it'll look good
ridiculous.
too. Like
Yeah.
that's the
Shit
thing.
I would have
Yeah.
done if I had this at 12.
Well,
Right,
so we were
exactly.
talking about tape to tape. There's a whole third layer that your family does not have in order to add soundtrack. You know, you'd have to incorporate a whole other
That's true.
device. Whereas now with the apps, you can just cut
Right.
and drop in. Like most of these Adobe Rush. I think iPhones, I haven't really looked at my iPhone, but because I know I've got GarageBand, but I'm pretty sure there's an editing software on that. Like,
Yeah, and if you have the right software, you can literally change the focus.
At this point nowadays, I can take a short clip for uploading to Instagram, and then Instagram offers me, like, hey, do you want to put a soundtrack on here? And you just search your song and put that shit on there. Yep. So, so what would be your advice to...
it even tells you what parts are licensed to be used and what parts aren't.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody young? I don't care. I'm not even going to say an age because I don't give a shit if you're 35 and listening and you still want to do it. This is still what's the best approach for somebody who wants to get into this to do?
I mean, it's cliched, but you just got to do it.
Rinse, wash, repeat, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, like you said, it's so accessible now. I mean, you don't even have to do it the way I did it, where I was editing in camera. Like, you can have great editing software on your iPad and your
DaVinci
phone.
Resolve is free.
It's insane. Yeah. It is free.
And available on most mobile
Premiere
devices.
is $20 a month.
Yeah.
You want to make a short film? Get Premiere for a month.
Yeah.
Go out, shoot something. I wouldn't say do it on your iPhone because we have so many awesome cameras, and like, get technical, you know, learn different types of brands of cameras too. Like, I wish I had done that earlier. I wasn't doing that. It was only until film school that I really started fooling around with real deal professional cameras.
Yeah.
So that I would say is a big one. Get to know all the stuff that's out there right now because it's always changing. That's another thing. So you got to stay up to date with it. And yeah,
one of my favorite things, like, I couldn't succeed in this profession if I wasn't a fucking gearhead.
Right.
Like, if I wasn't
That's
just
the thing.
loving,
Right.
like, I want that.
Right.
No, but you can't buy everything, right? But knowing what's coming and be like,
Yes.
that's almost perfect. The next one's probably going to be better. Let me hold on for that, or blah, blah, blah. Or at least when I go to the rental house, I know what to ask for this project. You know, make the client pay for it.
The days are over, too, with, you know, I just want to be a director. Like, I want to tell everyone else who knows what they're doing how to do it. You got to know how to do it. Get to know the stuff.
Yeah.
Start with
Get technical.
Start with
you don't have
all
to
the
get
apps.
crazy. You don't have to be an engineer.
Follow your
right. But, like, you know, get to know some gear.
Magazine, all that shit.
Yeah. If you want to be a filmmaker, get to know some filmmaking gear.
And that's another thing that is easier today. And this isn't a pejorative. Like, I really feel you need to take advantage of all of the information that's available to you. But, like, back when I was growing up, if you didn't buy the magazine, and believe me, there was a time where I was really trying hard to get film magazines in the local places the news racks that I had available to me, Arbor Drug, CVS. Eventually, it was photography and video maker, but it wasn't anything beyond that industry wise. Whereas now you can just key in some key search words in TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and start following. And now you can just find creators who
live updates from
demonstrating how this
festivals.
So even if you can't get your hands on certain cameras, you can look at comparative videos to see what this camera does versus this. You can look at comparative videos to see what professional lighting looks like without it. And those, I think that's all important to the research and the development, because I agree with you. Too many people are stepping into roles that their feet aren't big enough to fill yet, because they haven't taken those steps to educate. It's important to educate.
Yes.
So I definitely agree with you there. I would also probably mention, you know, we're a movie podcast and we do talk a lot about movies, but I think taking the time to watch a movie as something more than entertainment is something that you have to cognitively decide for yourself, that you have to start watching them and trying to ask yourself the questions. How did this? Why did this? What is this? You know, a perfect example was the rewatch today of 12 Monkeys. From the last time I watched it to today, I'm a lot more educated in the environment, in the industry, and in the art, that I was able to see things differently and notice other things. And it didn't take away from my viewing, but what it did was enhance, because now a property that I've already seen and already experienced, I was able to walk away with more knowledge from it. Would you agree that taking time to watch a movie is more than just entertainment. It's
I think
important.
that's the greatest film school is watching as many movies as you possibly can, because it'll get ingrained in your head when something is good, when something looks good, when something is edited well. Once you get that ingrained in your head, you know what looks good, what is edited well, what was acted well. Like, all that is super important, and that all comes from watching great movies.
It's like hearing a song that hits your ear right.
Yes.
And knowing, like, oh, and if somebody plays a note wrong, you're like, that's not how it goes.
Yeah.
Right. You know what sounds good.
You know what looks
feels
good.
wrong.
Of course.
Yes.
There are definitely edits that I've seen, and obviously much less on a grander professional scale. But when you're watching some of the lower indie films, and I'm not necessarily making a judgment, because most of the time when I make these observations, it's okay, let me make sure I don't do that, learning from. But there are things that you see and you're like, oh man, that just sucked. And you may not be able to put your finger immediately on it because it just felt wrong. And then you have to go back and be like, well, what was it? And it could be me being an editor. It could be a shot that was held or cut just a couple of frames too long or too short,
Absolutely.
and it just feels weird to me.
And
Yep.
it's in those moments where you find the true beauty of our art is in the collaboration, because you need another opinion to say, am I going crazy, or
Right.
is this not right? And then you're whoever you're working with goes, it's so close. What if we just did this? And you're like, that's what I was missing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It should be seamless. You should be watching something and it feels like you're lost in it. It shouldn't, especially with editing. When you notice edits, that's a bad
You don't want to
cut.
be noticed.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's
Which
the
sucks,
invisible ones.
For so much time and effort and energy to put into an edit, especially action movies where you've just got edits every half a second. So just bop, 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 bop. But as an editor, hearing people say that like you're good if no one notices you is defeating.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
it's the truth.
It's the
fucking
dead-ass
truth.
especially those fast cuts, because you need to show an image long enough for it to retain and make sense, but not long enough.
And you have to put them in an order that still makes sense,
like
because
that
Right.
fucking
That isn't
rat on
jarring.
the wheel in the fucking 12 Monkeys. Like,
Yeah.
it's there for just long enough, but you don't even notice that it's there. But if it wasn't there, you'd fucking notice.
Right.
when do you think you started watching movies as a textbook as opposed to a form of entertainment?
I guess like intensely after I went to film school and I started actually making films is when you get a real sense of the process professionally, you don't really watch movies the same ever again.
Yeah.
Which can suck at times because sometimes you just want to lose yourself in a movie, but I rarely do these days. I'm always checking out the process. I'm always looking at the filmmaking, and
It can definitely be difficult.
It can be.
I've gotten to the point where a lot of times, like, I can be like, no, I'm just going to enjoy it. Like, I kind of check it out. But if it's a new one and it's truly that exceptional, I just click out of consumer and go right into professional. I'm like, what? Why is that so great?
Right.
Like, what is it?
Yeah.
And now
it just takes one awesome camera movement or one
something that
poignant
just snaps
edit
in my
or
artist's brain. That's like, yes,
one
do that.
single
What?
frame.
Yep.
Recently, I think I had that reaction watching Monkey Man. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see
I
Monkey
haven't
Man.
seen it,
Highly
no.
recommend it.
Okay.
Dev Patel wrote, direct, and starred.
Wow.
And it is gorgeous. And when you get to the third act, there is this, it's a fighting movie, so you get to the climactic stages of the end battle, but there's this barroom scene where the way that they use the lighting to light the room is full of color, and he jumps up at one point on the bar, and the back bar is like back illuminated with red, like so much red in that movie. We're not supposed to use red on film, and there's so much red in this movie, and it was glorious. But it created this silhouette, and it was just this wide, and it was just a simple wide with him on the bar and fighting. It wasn't just a standstill, but like that. As soon as that came up, I was like, oh my God, that was fucking just gorgeous. It just took me out of it. And all of a sudden now I'm watching the rest of this scene, trying to really piece together the motivation for how he did that. And it's just something you can never turn off.
Yeah.
You see something like Joe said that strikes you, and you just start pulling the magnifying glass out.
Yeah.
You do.
Rewatches. I think that a casual movie person, if you're someone who is really trying to get into film, you can't rewatch every movie. There's just not enough time.
You can't. But if something strikes that note, like we're talking about, you're gonna rewatch it. You
have to go back and rewatch it.
There's no way it goes unchecked.
You have to go back and rewatch it and time it. I know editors who, because Premiere now, you can throw, I think Resolve does it as well, but you can throw it in and it can, AI will read it and cut the edits for you. So you can now get the edits pulled out, and then, they go through and they time it. This scene, how many edits were used? What was the timing on it? And just doing your own research to find the minutia of the who, what, where, why, and when, I think is our goal as artists. And I think if you're not focusing on that as you develop, then you might be missing a step.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So, that's the one piece of advice I would give.
When you said you went to film school.
I did.
Where'd you go?
So I went to a place called the School of Visual Arts, SVA. It's on 23rd Street in Manhattan.
Nice.
It's a small art school, and I just studied film. That's all I wanted to.
What's their curriculum length? Is it like an 18-month thing? Is it a degree?
No, it's 4 years.
Okay.
It's 4 years. It's a BFA program. And why I picked SVA, well, first of all, I didn't get into NYU. I wanted to go to NYU. My grades sucked in high school. So
Fair.
But I'm kind of glad I went to SVA, because SVA was, from day one, you're hands-on with gear.
Oh.
You get a camera in your hand. NYU, that's not the case. You have to do a year of
theory and
a lot of theory and other
NYU is going to make you
stuff.
do. Yeah, you got to do.
Take
a foreign language.
Hands-on
I didn't
yes.
want to do any of that. I wanted to learn strictly about cinema and making movies.
Camera.
Exactly. Yeah. Give me that gear. So that's what was great about SVA, and I immediately started making films there.
What is the process for a school like that? Did you go in with, did you have to have an idea, I've got to make these decisions on day one to guide the next 4 years' classes? Or are you able to start and be like, let me explore this and find out where this takes me, and then hone in as the years pass on?
Yeah, so the way SVA worked was the first year you have to pick a concentration on your second year. And the concentrations were directing, cinematography, editing, and screenwriting.
Okay.
So first year, I didn't love that was the case. I wanted to learn everything.
Right.
I wanted to have a concentration on all those things. Yeah. So
you had to pay tuition again to do that.
Yes, I guess so. So I chose directing because I thought, okay, I want to be a director, and 2, I'll get to learn everything else too in the process. Right. I wish I had kind of chose cinematography, because that's kind of my wheelhouse now, and I think I still would have been able to direct even if I was studying cinematography. Yeah. And it would have been a lot more technical classes.
I went to Specs Howard, as did Bradford. But
Specs Howard.
It's a local 18-month
it was a trade
TV
school,
broadcast.
basically.
Cool.
Radio broadcast.
School,
okay.
Yeah. And I went for radio, and he went for video, but it was kind of they teach you Adobe Audition, and then, all these things. Then they say, hey, do you want to go audio or video? And
so it's
I was going for voiceover acting, really, because that was really what I was going for. Maybe trying to be on air with something, or just work with my voice a lot. You know? And
you should give that up. That's never going to happen for you. You're never
horrible.
I'm hearing your voice right now.
Thank you, Cody. He was like, oh my God, no.
I haven't since then been hired for my accent specialties.
Never done any cartoons.
I don't still have a chocolate commercial that sounds like fucking Barry White plays through Kroger every Valentine's Day. No, that's not me. Anyways, this motherfucker.
The one over his head, I think.
It did.
Okay, as long as we're clear.
No, but he succeeded. It didn't go over my head, but you did derail me, so I just kind of went on with the derailment.
The Specs Howard.
No, but wait, did you guys?
So it was you had 4 quarters.
Did they have gear and stuff?
They had TV gear, they had radio gear.
Okay.
Like we had ENGs, they had the Panasonic.
And I went
P2s,
audio.
and
Okay.
He went video.
you had to. Your first 2 semesters were both TV and radio, and they split you into the basics and minors to give you a dabbling of a little bit of everything. A couple weeks with Photoshop, a couple weeks with Audition, a couple weeks, editing. News headlines, and all of these are different classes.
Yeah.
And then come the end of the second or the half point of your education, then you had to make a choice between TV and radio, and then you were no longer cross learning anything, and they just threw you into TV or radio. And on the TV side, it was, like I said, it was really about broadcast news. So they put you behind the desk. You got to do talent work there.
Yeah,
You got to-
teleprompter and stuff.
you had to run the teleprompter. You had to
Okay.
run the camera. You had to put the cameras back. We had to, on the roll and the dolly, and then rolling cables is an important thing. And then there was a green screen room where it was incumbent upon us to create a show in a segment, and then we all took turns building up a set and doing a segment, and then we did. Yeah, it was just, all of it was really for TV. None of it was for film, and I knew that when I
like
went to the
studio
school.
television.
It was the closest option we had.
So
like
now,
broadcast.
I went a
more,
couple of years after him.
Okay.
And I did end up going audio.
Okay.
But they weren't as focused on television then. They still had the aspects he's talking about, but they were leaning more towards digital film.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and digital media.
Yep.
So, and my class was exceptionally small. There was like 11 of us, and I think
Wow.
9 or 8 graduated, right? Like, so I was always getting my stuff done early, going and helping other people. So I wound up working a lot.
That's great.
With the other half of the class that went video.
Right.
And Brad obviously coached me in editing video and how to like properly handle a camera and stuff. And I just naturally made the transition after about a year in radio
Wow.
to video.
Yeah.
Because, us being friends for so long, and then now our like ambitions and dreams aligned, and here we are.
Yeah.
Has it been like 10 years now? I think.
Oh, it's more than that now.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty badass. That's cool. Yeah. This is a similar
That's right in the
thing.
nose, about 2014, 13, 14.
2014.
Yeah,
Okay.
when we first went into business together, it's been about 10 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Old Icarus Imaging Dataless project days.
Oh yeah, experimenting, and that kind of brings us back to this discussion that we did the same thing. When I went into school, I didn't really have a plan. There was incentives here in Michigan at the time that I enrolled. By the time I got to school, the incentives were done. So like the whole idea of leveraging TV learning to try and get into movies or commercials or I didn't really give a shit. I just wanted to be making things. Kind of fluttered away. You had to really be self-motivated. And so we kind of, when Joe and I realigned together and started planning it out, we just decided like, okay, we're going to make stuff. So we made music videos. We created a web series that allowed us to continue to shoot and edit and give us a motivation and a reason to get in front of people and grow. And, it was just step by step from there, to continue making mistakes or to continue learning new techniques.
Just finding a reason to film whatever we could. Like we were trying to be like Headbangers Ball, like online magazine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and we weren't journalists, right? And that's where it really went wrong.
People knew us more
ultimately.
as the camera guys, and that like it was more like our on-screen talent and what we were doing because it was free. It didn't cost anybody for us to come out and shoot their set and interview them, and that was exciting for them. But we were hoping that you would see that and be like, "Hey, would you do our music video?" And then we could leverage that
They
as
started
income.
thinking of us as like
Man, they would call us up. Hey, we got this show. You want to come out? Like,
we're
yeah, what are you doing?
journalists.
Oh no, you just come on out. Like, you'll just shoot for us, right? And it was like, man, no. Like, this is what it's going to cost for us to come out, and that started to change everybody's perspective. And
Yep.
it's crazy. It's crazy how a group of five men can't.
A couple people caught on. We got a couple good gigs.
Oh yeah,
and
we
that
definitely
led
got some
to
great
really
videos from it.
like to networking with the
Lowe's.
right people.
Yeah.
The Lowe's video.
The Lowe's video really. Yeah,
was amazing.
shout out to
Nice.
Angelo Coppola and Brandon McNow. If you guys are listening, yeah, you guys helped us get to even John Kozlowski and fucking Carlos. Carlos helped with the fucking
Yep.
what was that video?
Swarm.
Yeah, Swarm with Napoleon blown apart. Yeah, like we had a lot of fun doing music videos, and I love the theatrics of it.
Yeah.
And all
And
that.
I'd continue doing it. It just
Very
wasn't.
narrative.
It wasn't a good way to
There's
focus.
not-
We got into movies.
There's not a
Right.
lot. There's not a lot of money there, and
No.
we wanted to be fair. We're not. Some people take advantage.
Yep.
So after film
That's
school,
what led us to the
Yeah.
finding the network locally to get into indie film.
Yeah.
And start
Yeah.
getting into more like bigger projects and commercial projects.
Right. That's the way to do it.
We paved our own path
Yep.
through networking.
It's the only way.
So after film school, what was your journey like after that?
Yeah. So it was a little
Did
weird.
you come out of film school with you got your thesis and everything like that?
Yeah.
But outside of things that you were expected to make, did you come out of film school with anything additional that you had made that you were at that point proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I had made some pretty good short films, but nothing that would get me any other kind of film project on my own as a director.
Sure.
So when I graduated, yeah, it was a tough start as to like, where do I go now kind
Right.
of thing. Like that's a big thing out of film school. It's like where's the work? And getting back to my point, like I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do still,
By the time you hit that 4 years,
of course I wanted to be a director, but
at that point they've been throwing the director stuff at you, and so that's what was in front of you, as opposed to
right.
the buffet of other things to where you could click on a taste where you're like, oh, that.
Exactly. And it's also like you get out and you go, there's so many different routes you can take. So it's like, what route do you take? Mm-hmm. And it was like, I always wanted to be a writer, but am I going to move to LA and write screenplays and try to sell them? It was a bad time for that.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not going to try that. So then I want to be a director. Okay, what's the best way I can be a director? Well, I can shoot my own projects. So after film school, I PA'd for a while, which stinks, but I was on sets, and I PA'd for a commercial company. It was
We advocate hard for PAs here. Like there's no shame
you do
in
need to
being
do
a
it.
PA.
You do need to do it.
And especially if you want to know what a job entails on set, go get a job as a PA. Go be attentive, because that is the job.
It is.
As a PA, is to just be attentive and just go learn about all the positions on set and just be there for people, and you will be recognized.
Yep.
You'll make lifelong friends.
You will. And it's an experience. Yeah. Sometimes you will be doing work that sucks. Yeah. I was working at a studio as a PA. They used to make me wash dishes.
Someone has to.
Someone has to.
Drive
But here I was,
from the airport,
because
never
you're a
even be on
college
set.
graduate and you're washing dishes and you're kind of like, oh shit, like what happened here?
Go fill the muffin cart.
Right. But it's something. And, and you're, as long as you're making money and you're working towards what you want to do. So then I did that for a couple of years, and then I got a job at a camera rental house.
Okay.
Which was really helpful.
Another good move.
Yep. And also like kind of in limbo though, because you're like, shit, I want to be shooting.
Of course.
But I'm at
Watching
this
all
place.
these people walking
Exactly.
in and out
You're
with all
working at a
these
warehouse
cameras.
basically. Yeah.
Shout out Brandon Brefka.
Because you can, now you have an opportunity to, especially if all you've done is PA. Let's take your personal situation out where you went to school, because even if you didn't go to school, you get a PA position. But now you get hands-on all kinds of things. The number of lights that you can get to,
Right.
the distro boxes, the cabling, like the big stuff is easy to remember. The small stuff is harder to think about.
Right.
But you can learn things like what's the best way to pack, what's the best way to load.
Exactly.
These things that you don't really think a lot about because who wants to, but they're so important.
So important. And it's, you learn a lot about the logistics of things too, which is really important too.
Yeah.
And you realize how much people bust their ass to do something, to make anything.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work and it's a lot of time, but it's got to be done.
You had said something earlier regarding being a director and wanting to have the knowledge of everything there.
Yeah.
And I think that is important to me. That hits with me. And I think that doing PA work, but also doing something like you were saying there at the gear house, is one of the different examples of ways to become more. Because if you're moving the equipment all day long, so you're picking this stuff up, you learn how heavy it is. You learn how difficult it can be to stack things. It can learn.
Yeah.
What I'm getting to is when you get to that director point and you're like, okay, well, I need this, and this done, and you're told that it's going to be this much time. You now understand where all that time is,
100%.
as opposed to being like, what do you mean 45 minutes? I need this in 10.
Right.
Not realizing when those words comes out of your mouth that like logistically it's just not possible.
Right.
You need to be able to be like, oh, yeah, that tracks. Okay,
right.
cool.
And let me think about doing something else in the meantime kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
You manage your time better when you're more sympathetic to crew.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
It's so important. And I think there are directors out there who aren't sympathetic to crew, and they're usually bad directors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
When your crew doesn't like you, and doesn't trust you, that's game over.
Yeah.
For the project.
Yeah, because energy and motivation is one of the key factors, which, I mean, we're lucky enough to work in an industry where we get some things that other people would find to be pretty abnormal.
Yeah.
Most people have to pack their lunch before they go to work. We,
right.
generally speaking, get snacks and our meal brought to us, but that's not a gift.
No, really
Right.
good set. You get breakfast.
Here's the thing.
Decent one.
You are
Should.
expected to come in, you log in, like your call time, you should be there 15 minutes in the ballpark of 15 minutes early because you got to
Right.
associate for parking. And especially like if it's a studio situation, it's probably earlier because you got to accommodate for parking.
That's another thing you learn as a PA, that if you're on time, you're late.
Yeah. You don't want to show up.
You
at
gotta
the
be
morning
early.
meeting.
Yeah,
You
you gotta be-
don't want to be like, oh, I'm stirring my
One of
coffee
your
up. I'll be
dude
right there.
sheets, one of your day of days is a parking map.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here you go.
So,
Color coded for your departments. Art here, lighting here.
Yep.
and the food, it's to keep us, you're prisoners. You're not locked on set. This is why it's there. It's for the benefit of production, because if you, I mean, just take one example of a location change is the biggest way to show why you don't send people to lunch, because we all wrap up and you've got teams that are scattered. Camera team's going to take a different amount of time than the G&E team is, than the art department is. However many, and depending on the size, because if it's a large set, you've already got people there. But assuming on these indie sets like a lot of us work, or like you may start on, everyone now leaves. Right? And it's a 15-minute drive to the next location. Presumably within a half an hour, everybody should be there. And yet 30 minutes later, you're still waiting because people will stop off at the gas station. They stop in for this, stop in for that. And that's exactly why you don't send people out for lunch. Because you get 30 minutes for lunch, and there's no place that you can go to and
My mama's house is on the way, so I
get your
figured I'd
lunch.
stop over for a sandwich.
Get your lunch, go to a drive-through, and now that's 20 minutes in a drive-through, and now
Yep.
you're coming back on time, but you still got to eat. No, have the food ready there for us, because
Yep.
now we end, break starts,
Right.
we do our thing, break ends, we're back at work.
Right. And have good food too,
Yeah.
because you don't want people to slow down.
One of the
That's
earliest
another
things
thing.
I read in
Spend an extra 10%.
Yeah, come on.
reading a lot of I read a lot of books on movie making before the internet. Read a lot of books, and one of the things it said, if you were trying to do independent, producing, independent directing, if you want to write your own script and blah 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 blah, do not get pizza. Do not have mom make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Right.
If it's a one-day shoot, whatever, I guess. I mean, it's still a crime, but whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a principle.
It is.
It's a principle. You got to think, like, if this is now the third or fourth day where you're getting something that's going to make you feel heavy, make you feel sick.
Right.
It's not in any way nourishing, but it was cheap to the pocketbook.
Right.
You think you filled a hole, but you've created a problem.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out our buddy Lance Kawas, because even on like some short little like tiny films we were doing, like we did one for charity for Jumanji, right? So it was like a Jumanji canon affiliated with this charity that we ultimately had to get cleared through Sony, which worked out, which was nice. But Lance paid for the catering, the director, right? And it was for like a 3 or 4 day thing, just because it was this short. Like, it was probably one of the best caters, and I've been on some big movies with some good film catering, and Lance took care of us.
That's nice.
Lance always takes care of us.
Probably kept everyone happy. It sounds.
Yeah, and a happy crew is a crew that will work for you.
I love you, Lance.
Absolutely. I love you, Lance.
It just is. I love Lance.
Lance is great, dude. Cody, yeah, you guys got
Lance, you got to feed me.
put a camera in his hands, Lance. Tell him who to point it at, and Lance gets tears out of people.
Wow.
Cody, at this point in our story, we still haven't landed on you wanting to hold a camera forever. So what happened?
What happened with me not wanting to hold a camera forever? Is that your question?
Last we left, you were stacking shelves at
right. Okay. Right. So I'd always loved shooting, and I'd always loved holding a camera. So I'm working at this camera rental house, and I'm being tortured working here because I can't go out and shoot with the gear.
Yeah.
I'm playing with it in the warehouse. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing lenses. I'm getting a better understanding of all that kind of stuff and different brands of cameras and things like that. I mean, like the company I work for.
The people come in and out and take them out and shoot.
Exactly. They were all coming out. I worked too, where I was kind of like a delivery guy in a way.
Oh.
So I would have to bring gear to sets.
Yeah.
So I would get to the set and I'd be like, oh my God, this is sick. And then they'd call me and be like, you got to come back. We got to get something else. Oh my God. So
networking through that, were you meeting people?
I was meeting a lot of people, and then on top of that, my bosses were semi-cool with me being like, hey, can I take this camera to, do this over the weekend with it?
Right.
And like you would have to tell them what the project was and all this kind of stuff, but I was getting free gear, and I was shooting. So
fill out your TPS reports.
Exactly.
Fucking
so I was shooting music videos. I was shooting concerts. I was shooting spec commercials. I was shooting films with friends. And then it got to a point where I was just like, okay, I've had enough at this place. So I quit that job and I started freelancing full time. And I was getting some work. And then I got a job at an ad agency shooting commercials for them. Okay. And nice. I did that for a few years, and they had their own gear. And that's where I really picked up my skill on shooting, and shooting fast, and shooting sometimes as a one-man band, and doing things like that.
Product shots. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I would also, on the side, shoot my own stuff. Yeah. Freelance, use their gear. Right. All that kind of stuff. And then once I got to that point, I was good to go. And then I was, getting jobs here and there. And then I started my own LLC, and now I'm freelancing.
Excellent.
Yep.
You learned how to trust your eye and your instincts.
Yeah, a little bit. You just got to build the skill set. Like, if that's what you want to do, that's
Proper
what you
shot
got to do.
composition is very hard, but once you know it and once you've built that skill set, like you're saying,
I think having the opportunity to put yourself in multiple, you said some commercials, some marketing, some specs.
Yeah.
These are all opportunities to make mistakes when the eye isn't directly on it. Like,
For sure.
I think the imagination of us all being like, oh, I can make a better move than that, and then blah, 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 and you don't realize everything that is there necessary. And it's not just turn on the camera and point. And I think there's
this trial and error
Yeah.
to get to an expertise, because in this job, every project is trial and error.
Right.
But you have to be so good at it that you can fine tune it in that time. You're not paying me for 12 hours. You're paying me for 20 years of experience.
Right.
Yep.
So I think Sidney
Exactly.
Lumet, who we spoke about on the UF pod, we had mentioned a title. It was his first title. And in his oeuvre, that's his first theater-released movie, and it's good to say that's my first film, and that's truth. But
12 Angry Men. Yeah.
But he had TV movies, TV shows, and whatever IMDb doesn't clock to make other mistakes to get to that
Right.
point. So while that was his first movie, it wasn't his first effort in framing a shot, designing a scene, setting pacing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody who comes out as like a first time director of a film is this ever their first fucking storytelling venture. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's a reason they're directing a film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've worked towards that culmination.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You have to have some kind of
It's not a
experience
hat
or
that you
even just
don
life
lightly.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
if it's a flop and it's a horrible piece of shit, it's not a hat you don lightly.
Right.
It's just not.
No.
No.
And I think
You have to fucking lead a herd of warriors.
Absolutely.
You know, artists.
Oh, yeah.
Of,
You have to wear a lot of different hats. That's why. That's why it's very important to know how to do everything and know, or at least know how everything else is done.
and
Yeah.
this is why the really successful people have their team and they stick
Yes.
with them.
Right.
because We can do this. We'll
Right.
do it again.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and it grows from there because of the trust of the group
Right.
and the
Right.
camaraderie, the solidarity.
Yep.
My
Absolutely.
brothers.
Hey, fist
Absolutely.
Pound it out. Fist pound it.
bumping. I had a thought.
High fives.
Yeah, I got fist pounded and it just pumped it right out. I
You
needed
his fist bumped
Yeah.
his thought out.
Oh, that was the
funny.
best wording. That was almost as good as the dick joke last night with the zombie. No, I'm not gonna.
No, it's an
No
inside,
spoilers.
That's inside baseball.
Well, yeah, it's inside baseball.
Okay, check this out.
I think, yeah. Don't get me started. Please don't get me started. Well, thank you for sharing everything with us. I think we made some really good points and definitely some tidbits that we've never discussed on here before. And I think you nailed them really well. I want to highlight the go out and shoot. I want to highlight to keep shooting and figuring it out.
Yep.
And I want to highlight that you don't absolutely have to know where you want to be going as long as you're heading in a direction. And
Can't stop, won't
you may
stop.
not even be at what I love about this industry is that in my own personal canon, in my own head, I don't know when I'll be done growing to be
Totally.
the next thing that I want to be.
Right. Like
Can't stop, won't stop. Don't ever stop growing.
let the journey tell you where you want to go.
Right.
In a way.
Because
that's kind of what's happened with me, where I never thought I'd be making a living just shooting, you
Right.
know, and like I love it now.
Yeah,
So,
and you could absolutely. I mean, you look at the Deacons, right? That's an example, and then you've got someone like how's his name? He used to shoot for the Coen brothers and
Barry
Sonnenfeld.
Sonnenfeld is great,
Right?
Yeah, he used to be a DP. I mean,
Well, let's look at James Gunn, dude. You should work for Trauma.
He did.
Look at
Yeah.
James Gunn now, man.
yeah,
head
insane.
of DC.
He used to be an assistant there, working for
yeah.
free, like just
Yeah, anyone who starts at Troma,
whatever.
I looked into it.
Yeah, you're not getting paid.
Not at all. I was like, well, that might work if I lived
Brad
close.
did
But
Brad
yeah.
did some contract work for Trauma for graphic design, though.
no, it wasn't for Troma. No,
Wasn't it through a subsidiary or something?
no. So that's not how Troma works.
Okay, so I tell stories better than he lets his
Okay.
life be.
No.
Trauma New York too. We were talking about this
Yeah,
earlier.
Trauma-
He's in New York.
What were
Trauma
you
offices are smaller than this room.
Yeah.
Than the way that they buy properties. So I interned and PA'd for a film company here that put out a movie that got, and then when they got picked up by Troma, they tasked me with editing their company's reel
Cool.
for the opening.
Yeah.
And the DVD cover.
I did the DVD art,
Wow.
but they changed it. They did change the DVD art, but
Still, that's
yeah.
a cool story, man.
But yeah.
It's still, you have an affiliation to Trauma. That
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah, that I do. I just didn't do any work specifically for Troma. I'm just saying because the difference there being Troma doesn't employ anybody.
I said,
No, they don't.
all I said
always
is
what
Brad
I've heard.
has a Trauma story.
Always what
Ask
I've heard
him.
about Lloyd, that he does not pay anyone anything. But
I imagine,
that's
yeah.
if you want to be a part of it, that's sometimes a part of it too, man. I've worked on a lot of stuff I didn't get paid on.
Yes, yeah. I'm glad you said that too, because we do also mention that it's never something you
Holy
want to
shit.
do, but it's something you will run into, and
Yeah.
it's your own personal decision how you want to handle it. But if you want an opportunity, that might be the way.
Learn,
Yep.
right. Get your bachelor's of business and
Right.
learn how to write a basic contract. Because if somebody doesn't hand you one, you need one of your own to hand them.
Yeah.
Yep. Very
Cover
true.
your ass.
Well,
CYA.
gentlemen,
CYA. Cover
This
your
has
ass.
been a solid conversation.
Nice.
To wrap it up, first I want to say, Cody, thank you very much for joining us on both our episodes. It has been a pleasure.
Cody J.
course.
McAvey.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Would you like to plug anything? Is there any socials that you want to be connected with?
Yeah, sure. My Instagram is Cody J, like Joe was saying, Cody J.
Cody
McAvey.
J. McAvey.
That's it. And there's a link to my website, urbancountryproductions.com, and you can find a lot of stuff I've shot there, and hopefully we'll continue to shoot.
Excellent. Joseph, how can people reach you?
You just follow the Mohawk and the beautiful Hazel Blues. It's at _artisan on the gram.
And on Instagram, I am at Beeford Clark. The show's website is ufpodcast.podbeam.com. You can find us on Facebook under the Unorthodox Film Podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube, or wherever else you can find podcasts, and our links are in the description. Thank you, everybody, and we will speak with you next time.
Peace out.
See ya.